The following production is brought to you by the Talkin' Buds Leaf Show.
Here we go. Talkin' Buds Leaf Show, episode 304. We have officially entered off-season mode. It's time for Brad Treliving to cook. The Florida Panthers are the reigning, defending Stanley Cup champions. As you know, and as anyone who's been following along with us knows, I was ready to hand Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers the Stanley Cup before this series started. I know it went 6 games. Buddy, that wasn't close. That was an ass whooping from start to finish. That was men versus boys. That was completely outclassing the opponent. I am 37 years old today, and I can confidently tell you and anyone else who's listening, the Florida Panthers are the best hockey team I have seen in my lifetime. Without question, the best hockey team of the salary cap era. There's no reason heading into 2026 that they can't three-peat as Stanley Cup champs. There's literally no reason. This team is incredible. They're getting their flowers today after winning. Some of the quotes coming out from the guys in that Panther room are just about how united they are and about the culture. This is how we play. We all band together. Everyone has a role. There's no egos. There's no nothing. It's whether you love them or you hate them, you got to respect them because they just kicked the Edmonton Oilers' ass and defended their Stanley Cup championship.
Yep, could not have said that better myself. And I was thinking about I saw a graphic on Instagram of all the Cup champions over the past 30 years or whatever. And you do see some segments of a team winning 2 years in a row, a team winning 2 out of 3 years. And there's many dynasties throughout that 30 years. And there was a lot of incredible teams. The Blackhawks through those 5 years, the Red Wings in the early 2000s, the Avalanche were a good team. LA Kings. Tampa just did it. Pittsburgh went back-to-back. But I think the difference between this team and those teams is those teams were great teams and found a way to win, and they were winners. But those teams didn't just fucking absolutely cave in their opponents pretty much all the time in every game and every series. It's unbelievable watching them, how dominant they are shift by shift, just always controlling the play, always the aggressor, always on top of you defensively. And then it's not even they're on top of you defensively. Then they dump the puck in and they're on top of you forechecking. So it's just every facet of the game, they just dominate you. And I don't think any other team has dominated like this team has dominated over the past 3 seasons, basically.
And dude, you could tell with the Oilers, the whole demeanor and vibe around the Oilers and McDavid and Draisaitl specifically this year, completely different. We all saw last year on the Prime Video series, McDavid screaming at everybody and just how heartbroken they were when it was over. The vibe last night was they knew they weren't winning. I really, really, really got that sense from McDavid specifically with his comments after the game. They knew they weren't winning. They were that's a better team over there. He said after the game, nobody quit, nobody nothing. It's just, that's a great hockey team. It was, I can't emphasize enough. When we look back in history, you're going to see this series and you're going to go, oh, 6 games. This was as one-sided of a 6-game series as you will ever see. Period.
Yeah, they just absolutely. And the Oilers, they really expose the Oilers. The Oilers are an incredible team because they have 2 of the elite players and they find a way to drag a pretty mid roster to the Cup final every single year. But if you clearly Alex Barkov does deserve the credit of being the best defensive centerman in the world because he shuts everybody down. And if you shut McDavid down, then you can shut everybody down. So credit to him, but it really exposed the depth and the defense and goaltending. The Oilers are an incredible team for making it that far with how many holes they have in their lineup and how not of a complete team they are. So it just really, really exposed that.
Okay.
Let's
you knew this question was coming.
Let's get to the elephant in the room. That
you
kind of
knew this question was coming.
Yeah.
Only one team in the Stanley Cup playoffs was able to pick up 3 wins and take the Florida Panthers to 7 games, and that team was the Toronto Maple Leafs. In hindsight, and looking at how pretty much of a non-factor both McDavid and Draisaitl were for large parts of this series, does the result here change the way you feel about what happened with the Leafs a month ago?
God, no. Absolutely not. There's no way. And oh boy, the Leaf lovers are out in full force with this.
Oh, they sure
100%. And
oh yeah.
But the way I look at that series is kind of the same way I look at the Oilers series. If you really look at Florida's playoff run, they had 3 bad games in the playoffs. They had that one game against Tampa where they got smoked, and then game 1 and 2 against the Leafs were brutal. But after game 1 and 2, like they dominated 3-4. Like they were down early in 3, but then they came back and then they dominated 4, 5, 6, and 7. I know the Leafs won 6, but they pulled a horseshoe out of their ass.
Yeah.
And game 7, they got their asses kicked. So I don't care that it went 7 games. They caught Florida with 2 bad games in game 1 and 2. That was the only reason why that series got to 7 games. And I don't see it any different. And anyone who does see it different, I'm just not. I don't agree with you.
It's people who are emotionally attached to this group of guys who are just looking for any reason they can to justify running it back and to make themselves feel better about Mitch Marner leaving. And this is the first time you and I have talked since it was reported that Mitch Marner is 100% leaving. I didn't feel like that warranted you and I jumping on and doing an emergency podcast because that really wasn't news. It was just official confirmation. And I want to dovetail this conversation about the Florida Panthers into what's going on with Mitch Marner. And I mentioned earlier the vibe around the Panthers and the comments after the game. Did you hear Sam Bennett talking about Marchand last night? He goes, that guy is the biggest dog I have ever played with in my entire career.
Yeah.
Matthew Tkachuk talking about the brotherhood and about how everyone falls in line. And yes, there's all kinds of things going on with the Florida Panthers in terms of state tax, like all of which is valid. Yeah. Like the state tax thing is valid. It is. However, the state tax has nothing to do with the culture that's been built there. And that is why this team is having the success that it's having, because the buy-in that is going on with this team is off the fucking charts, dude. Yeah. Off the fucking charts. It is like, it's everyone has a role that they are filling. And if you don't do the role that is required of you, you're not going to play. And there's no egos, there's no nothing. And all these reports now are starting to leak out about Mitch Marner. I want to preface this Marner conversation with this. We and other fans who have platforms need to be careful. I feel like we're walking a very fine line. And when you cross it, you start to become emotional when talking about the guy and you kind of like you're pissed, right? And I think it's important to remain objective here and just speak of things as facts. And stuff that's starting to come out and get reported right now about Mitch Marner and just how he feels about the team and his attitude and just he's happy to be leaving because he feels like he's accepted too much of the blame and he's over being a Maple Leaf and all this stuff. It's just, the whole vibe is really toxic and it's really bad. And it's not what's happening in Florida. Nobody behaves this way in Florida and nobody there isn't this level of drama. So you kind of look at the Marner situation and it's like, you know what, man, it's not all his fault. You and I have talked about it. There's a small percentage of people who are psychos and take it way over the line. And that's insane. And you're unhinged if you do that. But at the end of the day, this guy didn't perform when it mattered most. And that's why fans are sour. And that's why it's gotten kind of awkward. And that's why he's pissed and we're pissed and everybody's pissed. And it's just, you're seeing what a winning culture is right now in South Florida. That's not what's happening in this Maple Leaf room. And that's why I think it's best for all involved if Marner goes his own way here.
What I will say is I think it's unfair to compare to the Florida Panthers. I think comparing anyone to the Florida Panthers is really challenging. This is a really unique team, a really unique situation, and their buy-in is simply just hard work. Like, what's their system? Their system is built on them working harder than the other team, and every single night they together just outwork their opponent, and it's insane to watch. So I think comparing that is a little bit touchy. This conversation, there's a lot of layers to it. There's a lot of different layers to it. But really, if you just peel back all the layers and you look at what the problem is, at the end of the day, you didn't produce, man. Like I'm really sorry about the dude sending you death threats and the whole like carjacking thing. Like that's not cool. Like that's scary stuff. And people like that, like fuck off. But for fans like us who can separate the personal and the hockey, it's just, I understand why he's finished, he's done, whatever. But this wouldn't be the situation if you just performed. Like you just flat out didn't perform, man. I'm sorry. Like I'm sorry about all the extra shit that came with it. But if you performed, you wouldn't have been in that situation. And to me, this is all about Nylander. Like the more I think about it, it's like Marner thinks he's taken too much of the blame. Well, I think Matthews and Marner have kind of shared equal blame in all this, in my view. So to me, it's like, okay, then you're really talking about Tavares and Nylander, because those are the other two guys who are involved in this blame game situation. So the more I think about it, I think he's just so pissed that William Nylander is just not hated as much as he is.
Well, and what's the difference? Why do you think that is? And you and I are the first ones to say that in this past playoff run, I thought Willie sucked. Like he had his moments early in the Florida series, but for the most part through two series, it was not his best look. But the body of work over the last couple of years of those three guys, let's take Tavares out of the equation, Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Willie has been the one that has showed up the most out of those three guys.
Small
and at
things.
the end of the day, yes. And it's like I always say about this market, like all these guys that we revere here, none of them have won cups. None. Zero cups between all of them. But they all provided moments and they all worked hard and they all seemingly had pride in wearing that maple leaf. And that's another thing about the Marner situation too. You're right. The fact of the matter is the bottom line is you didn't perform when it mattered most, but you couple that with, quite honestly, the worst PR I've ever seen from a pro athlete in all my years watching sports. Just defensive, just acting like being here was some chore that he had to carry around. You could tell he was really resentful. And again, we have to keep stating this. If you're getting death threats and people are harassing your family, I'm sorry. That is absolutely fucking insane. And nobody condones that. That's ridiculous behavior. But at the end of the day, because he played the way he played in the playoffs, and then the only time we ever heard from him was in these prickly post-game and pre-game media scrums where he just came off like an asshole, to be completely honest. Mm-hmm. And that's why he rubbed people the wrong way. And you can talk about the money. He wasn't the only one that took this organization. Austin Matthews has fucked this organization over on both of his contracts.
He's the worst one. He's the worst one. He's the guy who he doesn't sign long-term deals and he just takes every penny. And the guy's a pretty mid hockey player when he's not scoring 69 goals that one year. He's, I don't know, like, what is he really?
Exactly.
How does he stack up to other star players? Like, he's not in the top 10 to me right now.
Exactly. So what it comes down to is just a lack of performing in the big moments, coupled with, and this is not just his fault, this is the team's fault. Us and everybody else since the season ended has talked about how terrible the fucking PR was in the whole Shanahan era. Those two things together are why this market is just kind of looking at him being like, see ya. Like we're kind of done with it. And then you couple that with my original point of looking at the Florida Panther culture. You can tell that the vibe in this room is not it, man. Like it's not it. And that's why they wilt in all these big moments, and that's why they crumble, and that's why I spent our entire last episode banging my fist on the table saying, I don't give a shit how much money he wants. You sign Brad Marchand, and you bring him into that room, especially after what Sam Bennett said about him last night. Yeah. Like That has to be priority number 1 or 1A alongside extending Matthew Knies. Those are the two biggest things on Treliving's plate so far this offseason. Period.
Yeah. I think the Nylander-Marner comparison, because anyone who's listened to this podcast since the beginning, like I hated William Nylander for a couple of years there. I hated him. I thought he didn't work hard. I didn't think he produced enough for the amount of effort he put in on a night-to-night basis. But over time, that kind of changed. And I think just incrementally, little things that have been leaked out about things that Marner has done in terms of like him and Matthews have to play together, or there's just like, all those stories, like you're at the golf course, you're with a bunch of dudes and everyone's like, oh, did you hear that Marner did? Like, it was just a lot of like,
he's got
water
there's been stories forever
talk.
Too about his family's involvement. He has private security messing with media members.
Whoever leaked all this stuff, whether it's true or not, did not do him any favors at all.
Yes.
Because that just put a bad image. It started to create a bad image for him. And then plus the whole contract thing, that was kind of a disaster. And then it was the fact that Nylander just separated himself from the other two. The other two, all the leaks of them just needing to be tied together rub people the wrong way, especially when they weren't producing in the biggest moments. And Nylander was just kind of on his own line. Tavares was on his line. Ryan. Tavares was off his line. And he just kind of just went off on his own island. He became more likable. He gives better sound bites. It's just little tiny things over time that added up to, and he honestly has produced better in the playoffs than Marner too, even though it's not, I don't think Nylander's been a world beater in the playoffs, but he's been better than Marner. So I think it's just been little things like that.
The only thing I would change about what you just said is they separated themselves from him because they insisted on, we have to play together.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what like Craig Berube came in here and he picked up right where Sheldon Keefe left off, and just these guys play together all the time. You can't tell me that that is not an issue behind the scenes where these guys are getting told these two play together, and their camps have demanded that they play together. So if anything, it was them that separated themselves from Willie, because under no circumstance could Matthews and Marner be split up. The Austin Matthews thing is a thing we're going to talk about throughout the offseason and into training camp next year. I think it's the best thing for him for Marner to leave. Austin Matthews needs to get his own fucking identity away from Mitch Marner.
Yeah.
Like these two have been so tied at the hip for so long now. It's like, go out and make your own identity. It's just such a crutch. And whenever they got split up, they got the poo-poo face going. And it's like, it's just enough. This is, I'm so... We're going to use this to dovetail into John Tavares here in a second, but it's just, I've said it before, and I got into an argument with some people on Twitter about it the other day, talking about Tavares' next contract. I'm honestly here, I don't give a fuck about where this team finishes next year. I don't care about if they make the playoffs. I don't care, like, nothing. I know everyone's like, well, there's only 3 years left of Matthews. It's like, okay, I'm fully prepared. I'm so bought in that the culture in that dressing room became so toxic that I am willing to burn one of the 3 remaining years Austin Matthews has left as a Maple Leaf in order to try and fix what's broken inside that dressing room.
Yeah,
period.
No, 100%. And that's why.
And that dovetails into the John Tavares discussion. So some of the numbers we're seeing thrown around right now are 5 to 5.5 million for John Tavares. I fucking hate this mentality and this argument that you have to sign him
because
there's nobody else.
Yeah.
That is loser energy off the charts. Like you always say, this guy has no fucking leverage.
No.
None. Zero.
None.
Zero. And just turning around and overpaying this guy. That's another thing I saw there too. Oh, you could get $7 million on the open market. Okay, fine. Go get it. You're not getting it here.
Yeah, I know. No.
Yeah, you're not getting it here. Well, who's going to play second line center? You know what? Brendan Shanahan just got let go and Brad Treliving just got a big promotion. That's what he's fucking paid to figure out. And also, all of you that are holding on to this idea that we have to keep John Tavares, you're the same people that are refusing to accept that what's going on in that dressing room is toxic and needs to get fixed. And turning around and handing John Tavares more money than this team should be paying him is exactly what landed this team in the position it's in currently. And I don't want to hear about $7 million on the open market. I don't care.
Yeah, me either.
John,
you're
signing for 4, and there's the door, pal.
Yeah,
see ya.
That's been my stance the whole time with this. You give him a tap on the back, you go, you're taking. I wouldn't even give him 4. You're taking $3.5 million max, or or see you later. Like, and look what happened with Stamkos and in Tampa. They said take $4 million or you're out of here, and he left. He went to Nashville and he sucked.
So you said Ryan the other day. I said exactly this on Twitter, and I got hit with. He scored 38 goals last year and could get up to $7 million on the open market.
I don't care.
Exactly.
I don't care,
it doesn't matter. He doesn't win in the playoffs.
I know.
He doesn't win in the playoffs. It doesn't matter.
It's exhausting, really, because the argument that we're making is really just like it's what we've been seeing. It's what you hear. It's what you see, and then other people just can't. They just look at their phone. 38 goals, 100 points. It's just they can't get over it. That's their mindset. It's points. Who's going to produce in this spot? Who's going to produce in that spot? And yes, you need guys to produce in their spots because you obviously don't want a second line center who's getting 15 points a year. But at the same time, like use your eyes. Like go back and watch every Game 7, every Game 6 of the past 8 years. Like it's just like open your eyes. It has to change. It's so bad. Like I don't care that they went to 7 games with Florida. They still lost, and they lost every single fucking game in that situation for 8 years. So yeah, yes. I understand the stats. I understand the goals. I understand the 100 points. I understand this, but it's just you have to change the mentality, and it starts with not giving guys money. It's like you got to be tough. You got to be hard on these guys. If you want to stay here, you have to take this. And if you don't want to take this, then you're going to have to uproot your entire family to another city because we're not paying you this. Go get $7 million in the open market and go be Steven Stamkos somewhere else.
So you turn around and you go, okay, John, we're going to give you $5.5 million. John Tavares, yes, he had a great year last year. He's getting to a point in his career where he's probably going to become your 3rd, maybe even 4th line centerman at some point. You need to address your center depth. So paying John Tavares too much money prevents you from doing that. John, we need to address different spots on our team. So we need you to take a major haircut. And because you have no fucking leverage and want to stay here, you're going to sign it. And if you're not going to sign it, you're going to have to uproot your family, and you can go make $7 million in, let's say, Nashville with Steven Stamkos. Like, it's that, like, again, stop worrying about the results will come if you fix the problems that exist here. We watch this team every year in these big moments absolutely wilt and crumble under the pressure. Mm-hmm. Mitch Marner leaving is a huge piece for changing the DNA of this team. No question about it. But it's not enough. It's not enough. He needs to be replaced. And going and getting fucking Mika Zibanejad is not another guy who's never won anything. Is not
player.
I know. But still, he's coming from the Rangers, who are also a fucking mess.
Yeah.
It's so important. It's so important that they address the culture. It's the number one thing. Even more, I sound like an analytics guy. I always accuse the analytics guys of not caring about results. They just care about points. I'm like that now with DNA. I don't care about results. I just want to see. I don't. Well, Rob, just want to see.
Every team in the league needs to, like, if you're watching the Florida Panthers right now, like that should be every team in the league's mentality. There should be 31 teams lining up to sign Brad Marchand in the offseason. There should be 31 teams willing to pay a 42-year-old Corey Perry to come in and help them on their 4th line. They need to look at any sort of dude who's been attached to any one of those cultures or is that type of player that can kind of help mold that and go out and get him, because that's what you're witnessing. The best team in the league, that's their mentality, and that's how they're winning. Like that, you stick any of those players on like another shitty team, and they're probably like Sam Bennett in Calgary wasn't like Calgary had Sam Bennett and Matthew Tkachuk, and they didn't win anything.
So that I saw the guys on the Steve Dangle podcast talking about this, and I thought it was a really good conversation. Sam Bennett just won the Conn Smythe Trophy, and he's perfect in his role with the Florida Panthers. Plucking him off that team and putting him somewhere else does not mean he's just going to be a GOAT like he is in Florida. Like part of it is the fit. And this is this whole thing now that scouts and front offices across the league are going to have to assess. It's like, just because, what do we know about Mitch? Mitch Marner is a perfect example. Guy is an all-world superstar during the regular season, and he does not have any dog come playoff time.
No.
Sam Bennett, middle of the road,
give you
regular
50 points
season
in the
hockey
regular
player.
Season, yeah.
There's probably some nights during the regular season where you don't notice him at all.
Mm-hmm.
Guy just won the fucking Conn Smythe Trophy. Yeah. And so it's this balance now that, like, it's not just the Leafs. Every team across the league is going to have to walk of, what is this? What am I getting here? Like, are we getting a guy who's going to help us get to the playoffs? And it's kind of, you gotta have to find a balance of guys. Like, who are the guys that are going to help you get there, and who are the guys that are going to help you win in the playoffs? Brad Marchand, perfect example. If you turn around and give Brad Marchand $8.5 million, there will probably be chunks of the regular season where he doesn't play. He's old. There will be chunks during the regular season where he has nights where he doesn't look good, and some hero scribe who covers the team will write some article about how Brad Marchand's washed. But man, the second that puck drops in the playoffs, like Sam Bennett said, the biggest dog I've ever played with.
Well, this is what Florida Panther culture has done. You're going to have to overpay for a guy who potentially only really comes out and is a superstar in the playoffs. Like that's where the league is right now. Like Mitch Marner is a guy where if you're Anaheim, like you're throwing every dollar you have at Mitch Marner, because that guy's going to get you to the playoffs. He's that good. Like he doesn't get 140 points, but he gets 100 points. He plays in every situation. He's good defensively. He's going to make everyone better around him. Like that is the guy. If you're a team looking to get to the hump to get back in the playoffs, this is the guy you want to throw all your money at. But if you look at guys like Bennett and Marchand, like they're really only reserved for good teams already. Like a good team is going to have to sign one of these guys, because them going to Utah, I think, is like not
waste.
Yeah, them going to Seattle is not the answer. It's a waste. Yeah. So those two, all these players who fit that mold, the teams that are going to acquire those players are teams that are already in the playoffs. I think the Dallas Stars aren't looking at one of those guys right now. Like they're a team that just needs that player to get them over the hump, or the Carolina Hurricanes.
Dallas is a team that should absolutely be in on Marchand as well.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like one of those teams that like Vegas is going to be in because they're still a good team. LA makes the playoffs every year. Like all these teams that make the playoffs
Carolina,
every single year.
Carolina's looking for a guy like that.
Those are going to be the teams that are going to have to overpay for playoff performers, because it's hard not to. Look what the fucking guy just did. He scored more goals in 4 rounds than Austin Matthews has scored in the playoffs in 8 years.
Yeah.
And Austin Matthews is probably one of the best players in the NHL. Like I don't blame a team for overpaying Sam Bennett. I really don't. I don't get how you couldn't at this point. Look what he just did. Guy's an animal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as I said to start off, we are in off-season mode. We're going to continue our once-a-week schedule. I have a feeling now in these next couple of weeks, where as we head towards the draft, as we head towards free agency, we're going to be jumping on at a moment's notice to discuss a potential Matthew Knies extension, a potential John Tavares extension. And then as of Canada Day, July 1st, all hell's going to break loose and we're going to see some movement. And we'll be on after that to discuss the moves and where Mitch Marner's going and what the Leafs end up doing. So we're not going anywhere just yet. We are not taking off for the summer just yet. If you'd like to stick with us through the next few weeks as we head towards free agency, hit that like and subscribe button below. If you're listening to the audio version, like, subscribe, review. It really helps us out.
Spread the word. Tell your friends.
We really appreciate it. We will see you guys in a week.